WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Confused with a U.S. drone. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The Pentagon says the drone that struck a U.S. base in Jordan, killing 3 soldiers and wounding 40 others, may have been mistaken for a U.S. drone that was returning to the base. Defense officials say as the enemy's drone was flying in at low altitude, a U.S. drone was returning to the installation known as Tower 22. This, as President Biden vows, a response to the attack.
That response will come at the time and the manner of the president's choosing, White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says.
We'll also do it fully cognizant of the fact that these groups, backed by Tehran, have just taken the lives of American troops.
But Kirby would not say whether President Biden is considering strikes inside Iran.
We are not seeking a conflict with the regime in a military way.
He did call the attack escalatory and one that requires a response.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. The U.S. will watch what steps are taken by United Nations aid agency after allegations that some of its staff were involved in the October 7th attack on Israel.
It is imperative that UNRWA immediately, as it said it would, investigate, that it hold people accountable as necessary, and that it review its procedures.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken, the U.S. has paused aid to the agency after Israel provided information on the role of some staffers in the attack. Attorney General Merrick Garland will undergo back surgery this weekend and delegate his duties to the Deputy Attorney General during the procedure. The Justice Department made the announcement as Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin returned to work after he was hospitalized with a complication after prostate cancer surgery. America is listening to Fox News.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
They want someone else holding the gavel. I'm Harrison Silcox. Here's what's trending this hour. The attorneys for the Delphi murder suspect are taking another shot at removing the judge from the case. Donnie Burgess explains.
In a motion filed Sunday, attorneys Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie claim Special Judge Fran Gall has already tainted the court process and showed her bias when she removed them from the case in October of 2023. Richard Allen's legal team was reinstated by the Indiana Supreme Court January 18th, and they say even if Judge Gall stays on, every decision she makes and every step of the court process won't be completely trustworthy. The trial is supposed to begin October 15th. Donnie Burgess, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
An IMPD officer faces several charges, including 2 for sexual misconduct and child seduction. Officer Paul Humphrey, who's been with the department for nearly a quarter of a century, is now suspended without pay. An internal investigation claims Humphrey had a sexual relationship with a minor. Acting IMPD Chief Chris Bailey's recommended he be fired. Financial success isn't a guarantee for downtown Indianapolis business owners, even with the NBA All-Star Game. Downtown Indy Incorporated President Taylor Schaefer says they're focused on making sure business owners have every visibility tool they need.
Whether that's through the NBA app, where small businesses were encouraged to sign up to make their location a designated place for people to be able to earn points, to be able to participate in NBA giveaways.
She tells Indy Politics the downtown Indy team has learned from mistakes made in last year's All-Star Game. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Here's the forecast from the American Standard Heating Weather Center.
For tonight, clouds fill back in the early morning. Low temperatures in the low 30s. Tomorrow morning, expect a scattered wintry mix. High temperature tomorrow around 40 degrees. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
A house isn't a home without a little wear and tear, spilled milk, or muddy paws. But don't just clean it, quick shine it. Hey, Pat Sullivan here for Quick Shine Finishes and Cleaners with some Floor Care 101 tips. First, no matter the surface type, be sure to remove dust and debris. Avoid heavy chemicals or all-purpose liquids as they can damage the sealant layer or leave an oily residue. Now, to best clean and protect your floors at a modest price, don't just clean it, quick shine it. Quick Shine Finishes and Cleaners use non-toxic ingredients, making it better for kids, pets, and the environment. With an EPA Safe Choice certification, and Quick Shine has a full line of products to treat any surface, including their floor cleaner, floor finisher, and hardwood floor luster. I use it on my own floors. Made right here in Central Indiana for over 60 years by Holloway House, a family-owned company. Quickshine Finishes and Cleaners is available at retailers everywhere.
At First Financial Bank, we have 5% APY on money market accounts and high rates on CDs. It's easy. Just stop into your local First Financial Bank to open your account, and we'll do the rest. What are you waiting for? Start growing your money today. APY equals annual percentage yield. $25,000 minimum deposit required for money market. Offer ends March 2nd, 2024. Terms and conditions apply. Visit bank@first.com for details.
First! Hey, Pat Sullivan here, letting you know that when you need plumbing help, call who I call, my friends at Hope Plumbing. During the month of January, Hope Plumbing is offering a $150 gas leak detection service because they value keeping you and your family safe. Gas leaks are often colorless and odorless and can cause scary situations. Hope's technicians can find leaks long before they cause concern to your home. Call Hope Plumbing at 317-641-HOPE or visit them online at hopeplumbing.com.
Tony Katz.
It's Kendall and Casey.
The Amber and Nigel show. All right, when does your show start? Do we know? I feel like I've been promoting this for 9 years now.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC. I'm Tony Kinnett, and there's a lot going on. Let's get right to it. Iran is claimed to be a part of an attack on a U.S. base in Jordan, which killed 3 U.S. servicemen and injured over 30. Secretary Blinken has responded by saying, "We have not seen a situation as dangerous as the one that we are facing now across the region since at least 1973. Which shows you, again, the exact kind of idiots that are currently running the United States, because you're forgetting 1979, 1983, not to mention 2001. There have been a lot of situations across the Middle East in which things have been exceptionally dire ever since the Shia Muslims came to power and fundamentally overthrew a lot of nations and promised to kill every American, every Christian, and every Jew they can get their hands on. And this is the key issue with the Biden administration, because they pretend the same thing that the Obama administration pretended, which is that, guys, Shia Muslims, and I don't mean Sunni Muslims. I have a lot of colleagues, some of whom are very close to the station, who are really excellent people. Shia Muslims are not and do not qualify, just like a Westboro Baptist is not actually a Baptist in the theological sense. But anywho, a lot of people in the Obama administration and now in the Biden administration have this soft-handed do-gooder attitude to the Middle East. Even George Bush and a lot of the neocons like Nikki Haley had this idea that, well, if we just give them jobs and are real good friends and we kind of set up a democracy, after all, everybody wants democracy, Mrs. Cleaver, and we just give them the tools to build and they have the same bright spark of freedom that everyone has, which is what George Bush said, which was really stupid. And then Obama said, well, what people really need in Syria and the Middle East is jobs. We just give them some jobs and by golly, they'll love Americans and Christians and Jews and stop hanging people from cranes. Oh, wait. No, Shia Muslims have never done that. The Shia denomination of Islam is a raging genocidal terrorist group, as it has been since its inception. And the United States used to treat Shia Muslims and Islamic pirates in general the way that they deserve to be treated. I will remind you that, the song for the United States Marines in the very first verse calls to the shores of Tripoli, when Thomas Jefferson ordered that any Muslim pirate that dared mess with a U.S. boat would be sent back into the Stone Age. And that makes a lot of sense, but Bush didn't fight the Iraq and Afghanistan war that way. No, we went up to set up democracies and just kind of put on our kid gloves and kind of the way that we overmanaged Vietnam and ended up losing that war. It turns out that when you treat Old Testament style warfare as an anathema and something to be afraid of because don't want anybody thinking that we're mean imperialists, you end up losing the war. You end up losing the war. By the way, this is one of the things that cost the Soviet Union Afghanistan as well. People like to pretend that the Middle East is some unconquerable region that can't be leveled if people are acting nonsensical. Well, the Gulf War certainly proves that wrong, and I will remind you that Afghanistan was fully conquered and leveled a good 3 times before the Soviet Union ever touched it. Now, Jake Sullivan, our national security advisor, did say that the Middle East was the quietest in over a decade on September 30th, just a week before the Hamas attacks. But there are some bigger points to be made here, mainly that the United States, which has for the last couple of decades operated on the Department of Defense mindset, is getting U.S. servicemen killed. When you kind of treat war as just some kind of a background thing that you can sort of fight and kind of just put enough troops over there to kind of handle things. You don't want to go too far because, then pictures get on the media and that scares everybody. You actually end up getting more U.S. servicemen killed. Case in point, Tower 22, which is a base in Jordan, was not on full alert status. Now, you might think that when you have a situation in the Middle East in which Shia Muslims are running around killing every American, Christian, and Jew they can reach, after all, the motto of the Houthis in Yemen is literally death to America in the first part, you might actually have a base or two on full alert so that it wouldn't let a drone that it thought was an American drone get too close. You might actually check as to whether certain things flying in your airspace are indeed run by your faction. And that kind of policy is getting U.S. servicemen killed. So maybe we should go back to having a Department of War. Is that because I want to go fight a bunch of wars? No, absolutely not. But as Teddy Roosevelt said, you speak softly and carry a big stick. I have a secret for you guys. The United States actually has to be willing to use the big stick in order for other countries to treat us as someone they cannot push around. If you glassed Yemen and the Houthis back to the Stone Age, and I don't mean by nuking, but if you did make sure there were no visible Houthi rocket sites, U.S. ships and ships of our allies would probably be left alone. But we don't have a Department of War, we have a Department of Defense. And this has given lead to one of the dumbest ideologies in the entire world, and that is populist-style isolationism. Populist-style isolationism suggests that the United States actually angered all of these nomadic tribes when we spread out around the world and pushed through trading boats and caravans. And that's just terrible. And so we actually angered the world, and so they're now justifiably angry, and that's why Osama bin Laden attacked America. It was justified due to our meddling. And so therefore there are all of these countries that have the right to hate the United States. And so what we need to do is hide inside our own borders and just put this big, huge 800-foot wall around the entire contiguous United States. And we just kind of hide here and pretend that if we just leave the world alone, they'll leave us alone. Only there are two problems with that. Number one, that's how a third grader views foreign policy. That is not at all how the world works. And no, if we hide within our own borders, the rest of the world will not leave us alone. Number two, we have interests. And I don't just mean we want favors from other governments. A lot of the products that we get around the world are cheap because they come from places they cannot be produced or grown in the United States. And it turns out that the Red Sea, which handles between 10 and 30% of world shipping based on the type and category of product that we trade, is incredibly useful for American interests to be able to consume and to sell in that region. And whenever you pretend that the only two options are the Bushian-style neocon base building, nation building, soft-handed democracy building style, or this kind of weird Tucker Carlson-esque isolationism where we hide within our country and we don't do anything, both options get Americans killed. Both options are bad for this country. Neither one of those has to be the case. And I will remind you that the previous administration, Donald Trump, Trump tweeted out a picture of an American flag and shot a missile through an Iranian general's forehead. That's how you deal with these problems. You all want to complain about Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. It is kind of useful. If Iran thinks that firing a drone at a U.S. base is perhaps a good idea, to send a missile through someone's skull. That is a way actually to suggest that you're not one to mess with. And I don't like Senator Lindsey Graham, who said, we need to bomb Tehran. I don't think that's necessarily the right path. But I must say that is not the stupidest thing the man has ever said, because the blood of U.S. service members has been spilt. And hiding in our country is a mockery to the sacrifice of U.S. citizens in the Israeli-Hamas war, as well as U.S. service members. Up next, we're going to be talking to Shoshona Weissmann from R Street Institute about regulatory reform, followed by Tony Katz with a little Tony to Tony. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Now that we're in a new year, the Indiana Hoosiers are in a new Big Ten season. Coach Mike Woodson and the Hoosiers are preparing for big games.
Indiana's going to win it.
Big hopes. Big Ten. Iowa heads to IU to take on the Hoosiers. Tuesday, John Herrick with a pregame at 6. Don Fisher with the tip at 7. On your home for IU basketball, 93 WIBC.
If you're sick and tired of the aches and pains in your joints and you dread the idea of surgery, you need to call QC Kinetics today. Tony Katz here. The state of healthcare is always changing. Old ideas like steroids and surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. So if you have pain in your knee, your back, your shoulder, right? It's from arthritis or an injury. You got the injury at work. You got the injury playing pickleball. You don't have to let this pain keep you from living your best life. QC Kinetics, the revolutionary approach that can get you long-term relief with no downtime. That's right, no downtime from work, no downtime from your family, no drugs, no surgery. Call QC Kinetics today to get your free consultation. You can even visit on Saturdays. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility. QC Kinetics is in Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and Carmel. Call 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN. QC Kinetics, 317-559-PAIN.
Gary Stacy for Cardwell Do It Best Home Center, just south of the Gateway Arch on Indy's South Side. Your discount roofing headquarters. Stop in for wholesale and factory direct pricing on the roofing shingles and supplies you need at the price you love. They offer dimensional and 3-tab shingles at low prices. Cardwell also carries a full line of best look quality paints produced by Sherwin-Williams, America's largest paint manufacturer, with paint and primer all in one. Cardwell also carries a full line of Hillman fasteners, and for winter, snow shovels, rock salt, and ice melter all in stock. At Cardwell Do It Best, you'll also find a full line of lawn and garden supplies, plumbing, electrical, with lumber and building materials too. Cardwell Home Center. Shop online at cardwellhomecenter.com with over 67,000 products available and free shipping to the store. Cardwell Do It Best, 3205 Madison Avenue, just south of the Gateway Arch on Indy's South Side, serving the greater Indianapolis community since 1945.
You're all set with your Medicare prescriptions, Mrs. Brown.
This is not just low-cost copays at Walgreens.
I can actually help you set up 90-day refills if you want.
This is having a partner you can trust. Get low-cost copays, 90-day refills, and delivery from your neighborhood Walgreens. This is being independent. Together. Walgreens.
Restrictions apply. For details, see walgreens.com/pharmacy.
Hey, this is Spencer Thompson at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. Our 97th annual New Year's sale has been extended. Save 50% on Lazy Boy and Smith Brothers. Save $100 off the sale price on Sealy mattresses and all lift chairs. And get up to 4 years interest-free financing on Stearns & Foster and Tempur-Pedic. Sale ends Saturday, February 3rd only at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus with free delivery.
The new year is here. Time for change. Start a recession-resistant new career in the high-demand fields of IT, cybersecurity, and AI with My Computer Career in just months. Already in IT? Build your cybersecurity skills and prep for thousands of open positions employers nationwide are desperate to fill. Attend classes live online or on campus. Make this your year. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. That's mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including the GI Bill.
Show your love this Valentine's with exquisite fashion jewelry from Diamonds Direct and save an extra 20%. Now through Valentine's, all fashion favorites at Diamonds Direct are on sale. All earrings, all bracelets, all necklaces, stackable bands, colored gemstone jewelry, and more. Lots of romantic and timeless gifts for under $500. Special financing available too. Don't miss this. An extra 20% savings on all fashion jewelry favorites at Diamonds Direct. Shop in store or online at diamondsdirect.com. Diamonds Direct. Your love, our passion.
Do you need furnace or heat pump service and need to find a local well-trained expert you can trust like Kirby Heating and Air Conditioning? Find that American Standard Air dealer at IndyHomeComfort.com.
Reach your fitness goals in 2024 with the 20-minute once-a-week program at Exercise Inc. 5 locations now in Fishers. Visit exerciseinc.com.
Housing discrimination because of race, color, or national origin is against the law. If you believe you've experienced housing discrimination, contact HUD at hud.gov/fairhousing.
This hour powered by Kirby Heating and Air, your American Standard air dealer serving Hendricks and surrounding counties.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC. When it comes to policy and politics and everything else that your grandparents post on Facebook, we all like to think in terms of like the really huge picture things that are going to change the very world as we know it, and what the two ancient decrepit candidates are going to get on stage and box over. But when it comes to genuine differences that you can notice in your daily life, you actually need individuals who understand the big spaghetti bowl of laws. You actually need individuals who are interested in fixing some of these gross, entangled snares that actually cause you grief. You know, the kinds of things that you open letters from the government in the mail about and you groan over because that actually matters to you. When it comes to that, we bring on Shoshona Weissmann from the great place of East Virginia. And of course, our streets. Shoshona, how's it going?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me and for recognizing East Virginia.
Oh, it is my absolute pleasure. I got to ask you, a lot of states are currently in the swing of their legislative sessions. And what a lot of people around the country are really starting to get behind is this kind of reform movement against regulatory issues, because everyone's sick of alphabet agencies. This was the thing I wasn't expecting coming out of the last couple of years, is that everyone would completely turn on all of the alphabet agencies and their regulations. Are there any states that you think are going to really drive the hammer against regulations in this session?
So it's always a mix, and it's really frustrating when I love people on some issues and less on others. Utah's been doing a really good job of trying to make their regulations better and trying to, let immigrants who have credentials from other countries work. And they've really led the way there, which is pretty cool, because if you've ever watched The Office and Michael Scott introduces his new employee and he's like, from his humble beginnings as a prominent surgeon in Pakistan. And it's like, yeah, maybe we let doctors do at least something here. So they're doing really great there. They're doing really bad on social media policy, which hurts me because I care about it a lot. But overall, Utah's had some really, really great ideas, and it's been great to see. Arizona used to be, until Governor Doug Ducey left, he was so great, and he really led the charge on getting rid of regulations. But when he left, that kind of went away, which was really sad.
So we're on with Shoshona Weissmann from Our Street Institute. When it comes to regulatory reform, again, the stuff that matters. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely throw my hat into the political dumpster fire as much as the next guy. But when it comes to differences that will actually change your life, regulatory reform is the process of getting the government out of things that they shouldn't be telling you what to do over. For example, regulations on things that I know that Shoshona and I are very passionate about, being licensure reform. Through the education kind of revivification, everyone getting really interested in school choice and education, I'm not only seeing people on the right, but even some people on the left starting to question whether teacher licensure and teacher training programs are actually doing anything. Matt Iglesias, of all people, stole a point from a friend of mine and wrote an entire article about why through all of these years of teacher programs and the importance of very, very master's education programs that we're spending all of this money on, teachers aren't actually teaching any better. And maybe it's time to cut that crap out. What do you think?
Oh, I love it. My dad's actually a New York City school teacher, and he worked so hard. He really wanted to mentor all of his students. He would lose sleep over trying to help his students, but he had to work so hard to help his students. The system really wasn't built for it.
Wait a minute. He worked really hard because of all of the training programs he had, right?
Oh, yeah. It's all the he had to have a master's degree and all that. Plus, while he's in school, they made it hard for him to help students. So every bit of the system just isn't really set up to really help students, which is really sad, because it shouldn't take forever training. If you have someone who's some great life experience and can teach, why do they need a master's in teaching or even a bachelor's in teaching? Maybe you can have an astronaut teach about, space. That would be really cool. But a lot of times that can't happen, which is really sad to say. But I love the school choice movement, and I love licensing reform, and I love how it combines here, because I think there's a lot of good stuff to do to reform. And I think it's hard sometimes with the incentives But unions don't really protect teachers that much. Sometimes they protect bad teachers. Sometimes it's really hard to fire the really, really bad teachers.
Absolutely.
And like, let's have more competition. Let's have more. I mean, competition solves not everything, but it would solve a lot. And if we had more competition, we'd have more choice of teachers, more figuring out, is this guy going to be great for my kids?
And that's kind of what kind of irks me when someone brings up licensure reform and saying, hey, you know what, maybe every school gets to decide the qualifications that a person should or shouldn't have to be a teacher there. Maybe the school board can hear out the teacher, keep an eye on them, and then decide if they should be the teacher that sticks around there. And the comment that I always get is that they're going to end up being this class of idiots who are going to sneak their way into the education system and fool everyone. And then all of a sudden they'll be in schools and kids won't be learning, as though parents won't recognize that the person the school has hired is incompetent. And then also, I'm also seeing a lot of people with licenses who are incompetent. It killed me every day when I was in Indianapolis public schools. I would observe at least one teacher per day who had no business being in the classroom at all. And well, they had the license though, so they must have done something right. It just gets under your skin. It's such useless waste, and it has that government stamp of approval.
And that's such a common thing. Like, licensing just means you've gone through the process. It doesn't mean you're any good. It's a different field, but I went to someone to do my hair, and she's like, oh, I can't bleach over the bleach. It's going to ruin your hair. And I had to explain to her, no, I know my hair. You can bleach over the bleach. It's fine. So she left this like line in my hair that I had to cover. Now I bleach my own hair and I do all the chemicals at home. But, she had this government stamp of approval and she wasn't any good. I've had so many teachers over the years who were awful. When I was really, really sick, going through endometriosis and Crohn's disease before I knew what they were, and even after, my teachers, a lot of them they didn't care. They were just like, oh, you're just trying to get out of school. And I'm like, no, my insides are like bleeding. Like, this is a separate problem. I don't hate school. But some of the teachers were great. And licensing didn't fix that. I didn't learn better from teachers just because they were licensed. The system just really it doesn't work. It's all bent towards regulation. Regulation is so self-sustaining and it builds on itself. And then we forget, hey, this is supposed to be about helping students learn. Maybe we go back to that and figure out how that works.
I think the key problem here, again, we're on with Shoshona Weissmann from Our Street Institute here on the Tony Kinnett Cast, talking about regulatory reform and the stuff that actually makes a difference in your life regarding the government, not just the political theater on TV. One of the things that has come to my mind lately that I think needs to be a sounding alarm situation is that people think that we can just kind of keep going the way that we've been going in the last couple of decades and that nothing has changed. And then I see what's been going on with Boeing and other organizations who, like, their planes are falling apart, that there's not enough skilled mechanics, and there's not enough individuals that are actually coming out of our education system ready to work in any field. I mean, forget just the high academia, but in the trades, in the service industry, in the cohesion industry. And when we look at these things, one of the key flaws that comes to my mind is that to expand the trades, we've made trades education more collegiate. Like, instead of increasing the amount of opportunity for people to go learn under a really good master in the trades, we're making all of these community colleges for the trades with all of the same licensure requirements and all of the same duct tape. And what we're getting is a bunch of mediocre tradesmen and guys who honestly just haven't been given the opportunity to learn from the masters until they actually get onto the field, and then stuff goes wrong. I mean, is this something that we can naturally correct out of, or what do you see?
And I love the point you're making too, that a lot of people learn on the job. I know I learn best by doing or researching on my own. I know it's not the same for everyone, but that's how I learn. And I've read a lot actually about lawyers here, that most lawyers go out and they don't feel prepared to be lawyers after they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on undergrad and then law school. And it's because they haven't had really good on-the-job experience. And there's some evidence that law school clinics are a really good way to teach them. Just really active internships and apprenticeships. That's how a lot of people are going to learn. And
99% of teachers, no, forget it. I'll say 100% of teachers learned more during their student teaching time than they did in any of their instructional learning beforehand. I guarantee it.
Yeah. And these lawyers are I don't know how to interact with clients. That wasn't a part of law school. Or I don't know how to handle this case now that I'm the bird's out of the nest. And I think that happens with a lot of different kinds of jobs where people just don't feel prepared to do the work because they've never been in that environment. And that should be a really big piece of things, these apprenticeships. And, you know, we can have some restrictions around them or start to build some infrastructure around them, but it should be about good outcomes, not just building on regulation, because we think at some point just a lot of regulation is going to solve problems. It doesn't work like that.
I think you've hit the nail right on the head. Shoshona Weissmann, R Street Institute, thank you so much for hopping on with us. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Denny Smith for Zero Res, and how about a great cleaning deal of 23% off all services? It's a great way to say goodbye to 2023 for sure and get that house back to the Zero Res clean you've come to love. Zero Res can clean your carpets, your tile, your rugs, your upholstery, and basically every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. Scheduling couldn't be easier. By phone at 317-388-5141 or online at zeroresindy.com, where you can schedule cleaning at your convenience. Nobody but Zero Res has the patented electrolyzed ZR water that cleans with no soap, no harsh chemicals, and no residue to attract more dirt. They can even clean your ductwork to help you breathe easier. Schedule those talented professionals online today at zeroresindy.com. Mention WIBC and get 23% off virtually all their cleaning services, even their duct cleaning. Easy to schedule by calling 317-388-5141 or online at zeroresindy.com. That's zeroresindy.com.
She's running around. Her breath doesn't smell. Her digestive system is perfect. It has made such a huge difference.
What did this dog parent do for their dog? She switched to Nature's Blend, a premium freeze-dried raw dog food made by Dr. Marty Goldstein, a veterinarian Forbes magazine called the Miracle Worker. It's the easiest way to support your dog's easy digestion, nourished skin, playful energy, and most importantly, their healthy, full life.
I'm so confident your dog will love it. Your order is back with a 90-day guarantee.
Save up to 54% off Nature's Blend and get a free full-sized bag of Tilly's Treasures dog treats. They're best-selling beef liver dog treats while supplies last. Go to drmartypets.com/diet or text DIET to 511-511. Go to drmartypets.com/diet or shop in over 2,000 stores nationwide. Use the store locator to find the store closest to you. All pets are unique. Your pet's results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply. Studies available upon request.
Marketing professionals tell me I have to run some big promotional gimmicks to get you to contact us. And, just mark up the selling price to cover it. Mark Rowland with Indie Decorative Concrete. Now, I only have an IPS education, but I'm confident my fellow Hoosiers see right through the disingenuous ads. That being said, in winter months, I'm most flexible on my pricing. So if you have a concrete project you want installed this year, don't wait. Schedule a free estimate today at indiedecorativeconcrete.com.
Basements get a bad rap, probably because so many of them are wet, leaky, and musty. Michaelis is putting an end to the horror show. Their time-tested waterproofing systems eliminate and prevent water issues. Damp and moldy becomes clean and healthy. They have a lot of homeowners enjoying their basements again. Water, storms, fire, and wet basements. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
I'm a grandson, a son. I'm an employee and a mentor. I'm a father to 2 beautiful kids and a husband to an amazing wife. And I have a substance use disorder. In other words, I'm living in recovery with an addiction. And now that you know, will you let it change how you see me? It's okay to see my addiction, but I want you to know it's people choosing to see me as a person that changed my life.
See the person, not just their disease. Learn more at cbeyondtheaddiction.org.
Hey, y'all, I'm Blake Shelton. Being from Oklahoma, I know a thing or two about natural disasters. Tornadoes are common where I'm from and have affected my life and the lives of people I care about. No matter where you live, be aware of the dangers in your area and have a plan. You can create an emergency kit, come up with an evacuation plan, and know where to seek shelter. You never know when a disaster may hit. These simple steps can help save a life. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
We're all different. 1 in 5 of us live with a mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Talk to someone you trust. Learn more at bringchangetimind.org.
Tony to Tony on 93 WIBC.
Hey, welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC. It's time for a little Tony to Tony. And for that, you need another Tony. So we brought on Tony Katz. How's it going, man?
Is that a thing? Is that like heart to heart for 2024?
Yeah, I wrote the little music jingle for it, so you might as well use it. How are things on the morning side of WIBC?
I haven't been fired yet, so I guess. Look, that it's radio. That's clearly the arbiter. Do you wake up? Do you have a job? It's like the old joke. You wake up, you check the obituaries. If you're not in them, you have breakfast. It is that.
I'll take it. So the question that I've got, that a few people have sent in, is that with the whole Trump DeSantis fight, with the establishment GOP versus the populace, now Ronna McDaniel may be opening a line of credit for the RNC because it seems like there's not any money, and some people are saying that's because everyone is spending money on primaries, or that the populists are using their own funds. Party's divided. So the question I've got is it true the party's divided as much as the left is screaming on the media? And then we'll go from there.
Nothing's is as true as what the left screams. Like, for example, when they tell you Joe Biden's serious about the border, they can scream it, but it doesn't make it doesn't make it serious. To the extent that the Republican Party is divided, I sometimes wonder whether that's much more of a social media conversation than real life. But it is very obvious that the Republican Party, as an apparatus to engage focus, to do its job of getting people elected, being able to engage in these potential election litigations, which I have not heard thing one about. I have not heard Ronna McDaniel engage thing one about how they're going to ensure 2024 doesn't go down like 2020. That involves fundraising, and fundraising involves a message. It involves sharing with people. It involves getting them engaged. And as a party, I'm not talking about where the activist set might be, or a Trump supporter, or a still DeSantis supporter, to the extent that they're out there and would actually write DeSantis in. Holy hell. The Republican Party is a big steaming pile of mess. I don't think that's remotely debatable.
So then it's kind of, I've heard the onus is on, excuse me. Just choked me up a little bit there with your response. So the onus, I'm told, is on people who understand conservatism to unite the factions again together. And this has been said over the last couple of weeks with some prominent columnists, from the Wall Street Journal over to National Review. So my question to you is, how do we start rebuilding the party to go somewhere new, or to maybe start conserving something? I mean, where do we actually go?
I think that's the fundamental issue with the question, which is, what does this have to do with conservatism? What does any of the Republican dysfunction, RNC dysfunction, Ronna McDaniel dysfunction, paying for Trump's legal issues dysfunction have to do with conservatism?
That's a good question.
None of it changes my philosophies. None of it changes Burke or Locke. None of it changes a conversation about Hayek. None of it changes a conversation about a value of an ethic, of a philosophy that allows people to have the maximum amount of liberty with the least amount of government intrusion. Zero. So this isn't about conservatism worth a damn. This is about the populists who decided that they control the party. They own the party. Okay, you control it. You own it. Figure it out. You can't raise a dime, and you're not ready for the challenges that you say were the reason that you lost in 2020. I don't know, 4 years later, you don't have any money and you haven't learned a lesson. That sure as hell ain't about me.
And I think that's really, well, I'm going to be quite frank, that's kind of what I wanted to hear, because obviously there are a lot of times when, we just want to hear some soft, do-gooded friendliness, like, well, it's just going to take a little bit of time to get the party back on its feet. And again, as a conservative, I don't see that any of the philosophies that I've been writing about, or any of the things that I've been reporting on, have been any detriment to the party. I mean, it's not my fault that, Oz didn't get elected in Pennsylvania. And sure, Fetterman's been a totally different box of worms than we expected. But looking into 2024, I'm not looking at how Coach K directed the team in building the team. I'm looking at like Coach K's ability to recruit and manage. Basketball metaphors were really all I had there.
I got the Dukeism. I'm all right. I can go.
I figured. So the question is, like, do we actually ever see the RNC being willing to play the politics and raising money for Senate candidates? Is the RNC like salvageable at this point? And that's a weird question, because I really like some of the investigative research work they're putting out, but that doesn't mean squat if it's not getting candidate. If Trump wins election and yet we don't see Congress flip behind him, it means a very little in the long term.
So investigative research, you mean like the rapid response stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That has been very, very well done. I don't know how much you now fundraise off of that. For
That's
sure.
the question. I mean, it makes for nice social media, but making for nice social media had lost 2022.
Right. That makes your base say, yeah, that's great. That's something I can share. And I'm not saying that isn't important for social media, but your question was, is the party salvageable? I think maybe the question is, it has to be, because I would argue that the vast majority of things are. Because things change and things morph. I think the question is, what is the purpose of the party right now? If the purpose of the party, the Republican Party, is to extol a value, well, that would be interesting. But if that value ran counter to something that Trump or Trump acolytes believe, they're not saying it. The CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, came out and endorsed Trump before really the primaries got underway, which is a ridiculous thing to hear. Now, maybe that's the reason that the Conservative Political Action Conference is selling tickets for $90 now instead of their normal $225. Maybe
really?
Absolutely true. For the first time in, I think, 14 years, I'm not scheduled to go. It's just not the same place. I know what I'm going to get. And if I'm going to go, I want to talk to people and be able to engage in a certain way. But I think that's a great example of where the party is right now, which is it is this thing here regarding the presidency and the presidency only. Your point is an accurate one. I don't mind them supporting a nominee when that nominee wins the nomination. And certainly it seems like Trump's going to. I'm not playing in any level of delusion here.
Sure.
But what about those Senate races, as you brought up? What about those House races? What about governor's races? What about down ticket races? Haven't we figured out the importance of attorneys general, I should say, and secretaries of state? Well, these are important things. Where is our body, our mechanism, our ability to get that done? They didn't show it to me in 2020. They didn't know that the courts were going to step in. They didn't know that there was going to be judicial malfeasance in Pennsylvania. Of course they had to know. They got played. And now it's 2024, and you and I, who are at least observers, we're not necessarily the smartest people in the room. We're at least observers of the thing. Have you seen anything that shows you that they're ready?
No, and that's what pisses me off. On with Tony Katz here, Tony Kinnett Cast, talking a little bit about just where on earth the party is or isn't going. And right now it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. Not the party philosophically, as I'm hearing people whine about in opinion editorials. I'm talking about how we get people into office, how we win elections, because everyone said we have to get Trump through the primary so that we can get to the general. Okay, the general's here. We're like ready to go. This is the big, huge 2024. We've been looking forward to this election since Obama's first term, I've been told. So where's the strategy? Where's the game plan? So far, I've seen Ronna McDaniel attending galas and events, sitting back in her chair and eating chicken wings. Where's the moves? I mean, impress me.
Okay, first, I have never seen the woman eat a chicken wing. Just for the record, I've never personally witnessed that.
I guess galas have that catered broiled chicken stuff. That's nowhere near as good as chicken wings.
Oh, you're talking about like rubber chicken, like at those non-fundraisers.
Oh, things are horrible.
Like wings. I was about to say, look at them; they're getting all fancy. The argument is a solid one, because the focus is so much support Trump, support Trump, support Trump, as opposed to an apparatus that goes about winning. And so this leads now to the question of what do we consider success? If you get the presidency, but you lose the House and the Senate, is that success?
The answer is no. The answer is just no.
It's not success for me either. But a success also involves policies that adhere to a value. I knew going in 2016 that Trump wasn't conservative. It didn't bother me any. I knew my choice was Trump or Hillary Clinton. And as I've talked about many times, I had a 50-50 shot with Trump. I had no shot with Hillary. I knew Trump from my days in New Jersey and my parents in New York. Of course, I made that vote. It turned out very, very good for me. And the policies in the main, until you get to COVID, were absolutely conservative policies of conservative think tanks that were involved in that. I don't know what we would get this time around, and it concerns me. But I think the bigger story here is, how could this be the Republican Party not focused on those things and driving that train, driving that policy? Of course, you can have the wall as part of a border policy, and so it should be, the fence, however you want to call it. But there's 9 other pieces that we should already have in the can, good to go. Same thing regarding Israel. Trump's been absolutely excellent with the Abraham Accords, the moving of the embassy. But now, what is the policy regarding the U.S. involvement with Israel and, to the greater extent, Iran? You don't get involved in foreign entanglements when 3 American service members are murdered? Or do you bomb the living crap out of Tehran? Or is it something in the middle? Isn't there something that we should be saying as a party, or they should be saying as a party, about these kinds of things? Ways for candidates in those down races to be able to speak to constituents or potential constituents and be able to attract votes.
That's where the party should be.
Go ahead.
No, it's just that's where the party should be. I mean, unfortunately, we're a little bit low on time because, there's only so much of the world that we can save in one segment.
Nonsense.
But I know. Tony Katz, thanks for hopping on. We'll be back in just a second. You are listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
This could be one of the most consequential elections in our lifetime.
Who will be our next president?
Next senator?
Governor?
And just as important,
who will represent us in the General Assembly?
You have a voice with your one vote.
Unhappy with the current state of affairs? You can do something about it.
Voting is one of our most important rights as Americans.
It's how you can stand up for your beliefs,
your values,
and for future generations.
Registration to vote in the May primary is open through April 8th.
From 93 WIBC and Urban One.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hey, got a question for you. Have you saved more than $200,000 for retirement? Do you want this money to work for you without taking a lot of risk? Hammer and Nigel here. What if you could take this money and get an upfront 13% bonus and get a competitive return that's averaged 7% a year for the past 10 years? Sounds pretty darn good, doesn't it?
To get all the details, call Bill Demery right here in Indy. He's my retirement guy. He's your retirement guy. Call Bill right now, 317-648-5120. Discover how you could get an upfront 13% bonus, earn a competitive return that's averaged 7% a year for the last 10 years. And it's all backed by one of the largest insurance companies in the world. This offer won't last long. Call Bill Demery, 317-648-5120. That's 317-648-5120. Past performance is no guarantee of future returns.
Indiana Pathways for Aging, a new program from the Indiana Family and Social Services Administration, helps Hoosier Medicaid members age 60 and over get support for care their way so they can live life their way. Pathways was designed with input from older Hoosiers and caregivers like me, and it's giving us what we want, support to help older Hoosiers live as independently as possible for as long as possible. Pathways coordinates Medicaid and Medicare services like meal prep, transportation, and even basic personal care at no additional cost. And I can get respite support so I can take care of my own health and well-being. My husband Bob has advanced Parkinson's. One day he may choose a nursing facility, but we have options with Pathways today. And those options are giving us support our way to live life our way. The program begins in the summer of 2024. Call 87-PATHWAY-4 or visit in.gov/pathways.
Hey, Pat Sullivan here, and my friends at Hope Plumbing are hoping your 2024 is off to a great start. It's a new year, new you, and perhaps a new water heater. Water heaters are often tucked away and overlooked until your water runs cold and it's too late. During the month of January, Hope Plumbing is offering a free estimate for a water heater replacement so your new year is free of cold showers. Call Hope Plumbing at 317-641-HOPE or visit them online at hopeplumbing.com.
LD Smith Plumbing, A dirty, stinking honest.
The crew at LD Smith Plumbing has deep roots in Indiana. Unfortunately, most of the trees around here have deep roots too. And if it isn't roots in your pipes, it's a water heater ruined by sediment. No matter the plumbing problem, we'll show water who's boss. So if you need a new water heater, call us today and save up to $300 on a tankless water heater or $150 on a storage water heater.
LD Smith Plumbing. A dirty, stinking honest.
Kirby Heating and Air, family owned since 1983. Call or go to kirbyheating.com to speak with a customer service representative.
Kirby Heating and Air is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed. Oh, yeah? Yeah, he's starting with the whoops. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Good evening and welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC. So I do a lot of writing these days, and part of my writing style that at least I've been told to by a couple of people who read my work is that I'm forensic. And that's a very fancy word that means I cite my sources. If you click on an article by Tony Kinnett, especially if it's an article that is an analysis piece or it's a reporting piece, there are hyperlinks all over that article so that you can click anywhere in my claims and find out exactly where I've got it, the news place it was reported, the piece of legislation. I post a picture of the bill and I highlight exactly where in the bill the claim that I'm referencing is made. Every single thing that I put is sourced. And the reason that I do that, and the reason that I try to keep all of that, for example, when I was at Indianapolis Public Schools and I started making allegations about things inside Indianapolis Public Schools, I had video evidence, I had documentation, I had a clear list of explicit examples. So, two things. Number one, no one could ever claim I was making it up. And number two, so no one could ever claim that it didn't happen. Because what's going on at the southern border right now is a clear case of Democrats and those on the left so desperate for Biden to get across the finish line in 2024 that they are inventing a brand new history that everyone knows is complete garbage about the southern border, especially down near Texas. So, a little bit of a recap since we've been on the air last. President Biden now says that he needs Congress to shut down the border and has proposed, along with some kind of a deal in the U.S. Senate, which, if there are any Republicans out there, including Todd Young, who signed on to this horrendous bill, they not only need to be thrown out of office, they very darn near well need to be thrown out of the country. This bill limits illegal immigrants to 5,000 per day. So we're only now allowing, according to this bill that Biden wants through, 5,000 illegal immigrants a day. By the way, that's still 5,000 people breaking the law. I don't know if you guys know this, but there are these really cool things called border crossings. There are these points of entry. They're really fancy. They have little buildings. You can enter the country there. Even if we built a huge wall with razor wire and all other kinds of security measures, all of that stuff, there would still be these really cool checkpoints called border crossings, points of entry. So Biden wants people to enter illegally up to 5,000 people per day. By the way, if you do the math, that's 1.5 million illegal immigrants a year. As opposed to the 2 million now. So this is literally just codifying illegal immigration into some kind of a weird muck of pseudo-legality, which is insane. As Bill Mulligan from Fox News pointed out this evening, in California, 2 human smuggling SUVs were just seen dropping off groups of illegal immigrants who then trot just right across the border. And they come from China, Turkey, and India in that specific group. So it's not pregnant Latin American women. It actually turns out that it's people from all over the world entering through this porous structure. And a lot of people are saying, well, come on, why aren't Republicans voting on a law? We all see Republicans not voting on this law. Republicans don't want to solve immigration. They just want to make Biden look bad. And then history comes out to play. History is kind of an important thing. So H.R. 2, which the Republican-controlled House just passed, included measures to shut the border and to make it incredibly difficult for people to illegally immigrate into the country. I will remind you that President Biden, on his very first day in office, canceled Trump's proclamation of an emergency at the southern border. There have been millions Millions, and I don't give you an exact number because we do not know. It's a minimum of a few millions of illegal immigrants have crossed the border under the Biden administration, where only a total of about 1 million crossed during the Trump administration. Republicans have tried to pass 7 illegal immigration control bills in the last 5 years. 7. And they have been turned down time and time again by Democrats. And Democrats will say, well, what about this bill? Like the combination border funding bill that hires a lot more border security and border patrol agents and also gives billions of dollars to Ukraine. See, the problem is a lot of people in the media will look at Republicans being given a huge bill. One of those big, huge 12,000 page thingamajigs. And inside the bill are 2 things. Number 1, it says this bill promises to feed puppies. And then number 2 in the bill, it says, this bill promises to inject heroin into orphans. And then Republicans will say, I'm not voting for a bill to inject heroin into orphans. And so they vote against the bill. And then tomorrow morning on CNN and MSNBC, you'll see a headline, and Indiana Democrats will be all over Twitter going, Republicans don't want to feed puppies. And, oh, it's so terrible. You guys, they don't have to put 800-page bills forward that have 547,000 things. You can pass single-issue bills, which, by the way, should be a law in the state of Indiana. And it should be a federal law that you can only pass single-issue bills. Because the Democrats right now, again, H.R. 2 was a border security bill that the Democrats turned down because Ukraine funding was not tied to it. If Ukraine is so important, then shame Republicans for not voting for the Ukraine bill, but pass the border funding bill. Otherwise, you're making it seem, if you can't vote for the single issue bill, you're making it seem like you can't handle it. Of course, the humor is not lost on any of us that President Biden, who didn't need Congress at all, to pass an executive order which completely twisted a post-9/11 debt forgiveness for U.S. troops in Iraq to cancel student debt for the entire country because of COVID. He had no problem signing executive orders to cancel like $1.7 trillion of college debt. All of a sudden, though, he needs Congress to act on the border. I'm going to give you guys a very basic U.S. civics lesson right here, right now. Congress passes the law. The executive branch enforces the law. The Supreme Court decides whether the law is good. That's it. That's how it works. So the person who has the only authority to uphold the border is the President of the United States. Don't let him rewrite history. This is very basic stuff. Thanks for tuning in this evening to the Tony Kinnett Cast. You can always catch the podcast. Make sure to go leave us a review. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good evening.